To the defense, Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Purse.
I'd like to call Paul Simon, Judge.
Okay, is Mr. Simon present?
The evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me God.
Have a seat, please. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Simon.
Hello, how you doing today?
Mr. Simon, you understand why we're here, correct? Yeah. And I've asked you to come forward and speak in mitigation about your sister Leilani, okay? We're not here to argue with the verdict. The verdict's been rendered, but we are here to try and basically tell the court about Leilani. And so you've asked to speak. And is there anything you'd like to tell the court before the court imposes sentence, Paul?
So growing up, Leilani is my closest sibling. Growing up, she was always there for me whenever I needed her. Whenever I needed advice about anything, didn't matter what it was, she would always give it to me to the best of her ability. So, I mean, I love her. She's my sister. And, you know, I love Quinton. That's my nephew. You know, I love him just like he was my own blood. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit here and live in the past when all I have is days ahead of me. And I'm gonna keep moving forward.
Okay. And with Leilani, whenever you lived in the house when this was going on, correct? How was she with the children at that point in time?
She was always pretty fair to them. I never saw her hit them. She would yell at them, but I mean, everybody gets frustrated. So,
Right.
I never really saw her hit them. You know, when Quinton and Zane and Sky, when they were all outside, she was out there watching them, making sure that none of them got too close to the pool. At a certain point, Zane would finally put his feet into the pool without throwing a tantrum, you know. So I never saw no abuse, never saw no bruises, besides from, like, you know, maybe Quinton running through the house and falling. I mean, can't help that. He was bow-legged. I mean, he could barely walk as it was.
You were close to Quinton, weren't you?
I was. He would come up to me and put his arms over my legs, and I'd just sit there and bounce him. 20, 30 minutes later, it's still going. You know, he'd wear me out. He'd beat me up.
Well, that being said, do you have an eye towards what you think the court should do with Leilani? I mean, the court's limited to either life with or without parole. And what are you here asking the court to do with Leilani's sentence?
In my opinion, she needs to spend time in prison, but at the same time, she's still extremely young. And regardless of how it looks, at the end of the day, she's still my sister. And I feel like even though she was convicted of what she was convicted of, she still deserves a chance, even if it's later in her life, to have an opportunity to live her life still.
And that's what you're asking for, correct? Is life with parole, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I just wanted to be clear, okay?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell the court about your sister?
Just I love you, sister. I hope you make it through it.
And Mr. Dean might have some questions for you, Paul, okay?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Simon, you may step down.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have Kimberly Hill, Judge.
Hill.
The evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
State your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Kimberly Hill.
Okay, and Ms. Hill, how do you know Ms. Leilani Simon?
Me and Leilani met when we were young, 15, 16. I was 15, she was 16.
Ms. Hill, I can tell you're on a soft. I'm going to ask you to scoot up a little bit to the mic.
Is this better?
That is much better.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to speak up. They're recording everything we say and do.
I completely understand.
All right. So
we
you-
met when I was 15 and she was 16. We met through a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
We were both very young, it was before kids. And she was so kind. I was very clueless and dumb at 15. I came from a very sheltered home, and she could have taken advantage of me very easily. But she didn't. Instead, she showed me everything. I mean, she showed me all around Savannah. She showed me how to act and how to talk in a setting that wasn't, it was very awkward as a kid. She really helped me through all of that, and she was very kind to me. Like I said, she had the opportunity to take advantage of me, and she didn't. We were friends for a couple of years, and I was away for about 2 years, a year and a half or so we didn't really get to talk that much. And by the time I reconnected, she had had her first baby, and we would hang out quite often. She was always concerned about him. Always, every time I saw her, whether it was the first child or after the second child, it was always, I'm going to be better, I'm going to do better, I'm doing better, I'm working towards something better. She always made an effort, and you could tell that she cared, even if she made the wrong decisions.
Okay. And you understand why we're here today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's your most recent interaction with Ms. Simon?
About 6 months to a year prior to everything that had happened, I did distance myself just because I could tell we were going in different directions in life.
You can be honest. What did you mean by that?
She was hanging around the wrong crowd, from what I presumed, and I was going to college, I was getting my degree, I was working in a very professional setting, and I just didn't have time to go all the way out. It was very far where I was living. I was in Savannah. I can't remember where it was, but it was about an hour and a half near Waynesboro. It was pretty far. So it was just very difficult to see her, and I also didn't want to get caught up in anything just in case. I wasn't aware of anything, but I didn't want to be aware of anything if there was.
And that was probably, if I'm not correct, 2021, early 2022?
Like late 2020, early 2021 is probably around the last time that we had hung out.
All right. Have you reconnected with her since then, since this all transpired, or no?
No, sir.
So basically your experience was as teenagers for the most part?
From 15 to 2021.
Okay. So for about 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Just trying to nail it down.
Of course.
And you understand what we're here for, but that's the person you remember, is that
Yes, sir.
kind, gentle soul.
Even though everything happened, it wouldn't be right for me to not come here and speak on what I experienced.
And that's all the questions I have. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
I hope you're doing okay.
And Mr. D might have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hill, you may step down.
Thank you.
Thomas Howell's next, Judge.
Mr. Howell?
The evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Judge.
State your name, please, sir.
Thomas Howell.
Okay. And Mr. Howell, how are you related to Ms.
I
Simon?
am Leilani's stepfather.
Okay. And how long have you been her stepfather?
Well, about going on 12 years.
So not like 2 years ago.
No,
or 3
sir.
years ago. So it's been a while.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you helped raise her, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're married to Billy Joe, just
Yes,
to be
sir.
clear, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Danny and Leilani and Quinton and Zane and Sky were all living with y'all in October of 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that point in time, either you and Billy Joe were working or you were at home, right?
Yes, sir.
And just to be clear, how long would y'all be gone when you were out working?
Well, at that time I was working in Anderson, South Carolina. And so some weekends I'd have to work weekends, so I just stayed there the whole week. The other weekends, when I did only work, we work usually our standard hours is 4 10s. So I'd come home on the weekends and then go back Monday morning.
So it's normally like 4 on, 3 off?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's what I was trying to get to. So you'd be gone for 4 days and back for 3 days?
Yes, sir. Monday through Thursday. I come back Thursday night.
Right. So, and you understand we're here for sentencing today, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also understand the sentencing is limited. I mean, it's either going to be life with parole or life without parole, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm asking you to tell the court what you'd like to tell the court about Leilani in fashioning that sentence.
Well, Leilani was very smart. In school, she could pretty much take a test and not study for it and pass it. I mean, that's how smart she was. And like I say, when you're not on drugs, you're a totally different person. And Leilani just got into drugs, and it just, I guess you could say, made her somebody different. And pretty much all I'm asking is that she have a chance one day to come out in the world and I understand, but nobody knows what happened to that youngin'. Nothing's been proven what happened to her, to him, and I just would ask for one day she'd be able to walk amongst us. I mean, I probably won't be here. I mean, I'm up in age, but that she'd at least be given one more chance in life instead of just putting her away and throwing away the key.
Anything further you want to add, Mr. Howell?
No, sir.
Mr. Dean may ask some questions for you.
All right.
Okay.
Sir, I have no questions for you.
All right.
You may sit down, Mr. Howell.
Thank you.
Next is Jackie Madden, Judge.
Jackie Madden.
The evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. And Ms. Madden, once you have a seat, would you spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Oh, yes. Jackie, Jackie, Madden, Madden.
All right. Mr. Hilliard.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. How do you know Ms. Simon, Ms. Madden?
Biologically, I'm her aunt, but I raised her about half of her life. I love her like she's my own daughter.
And what years did you raise her?
From 2002, gosh, till she was about 9, and then she went to live with her mom, and then again when she was 11.
Until about when?
That was a little better than a year, and then she went back to stay with her mom.
And during that time frame, tell me what you remember about her.
Oh gosh. I've written it all out. I don't know if it's appropriate to read it now or later.
That's completely up to you. Whatever you got to say it now.
This is the easiest. Obviously, I have a different relationship with Leilani. I know a different Leilani than what is depicted, than what is splattered all over everywhere. My husband and I raised Leilani for about half of her life. Her younger brother was with us the majority of his life. We are blessed to have her in our lives. Because she was in our lives full time, we were able to see a Leilani that has not been depicted over the last 2 years. Leilani was happy, full of life, still is. Unfortunately, she's not able to show it right now. She has the biggest, beautiful smile. She's beautiful inside and out. We watched her protect her younger brother. Gosh, she protected Paul like there's no tomorrow. She would protect him against others, whatever that took. She helped him with school. She was happy to help interpret
him when needed. He had speech difficulties, and sometimes was difficult to understand, but being just a little better than a year apart, she could sometimes understand, and she had better language skills than he did. She did very well in school. She attended a Montessori school for her younger elementary school years, which requires independent learning, responsibility for a student's coursework. It requires the ability to make decisions about how one completes their weekly assigned work. Her progress was similar to that of her classmates. Her teachers rarely had concerns with her academic abilities. As a teenager in middle school, she experienced bullying. Although this was concerning, she still excelled. She was proud to be successful in school and took ownership of her responsibilities as a student. Does all of this mean that she was a perfect student? Absolutely not. Does it mean that she didn't make mistakes as a young adult, as a teenager, as a child? No, it does not. We all do. We've all gone through that. We know what it's like to be a child. We know what it's like to make mistakes. We do it as adults all the way up until the time we pass away. She was independent. She did her chores without being directed to. She was responsible. She eagerly fixed dinner if her mom worked late, and I did experience that, so it's not hearsay. She could follow directions, both written and oral, if needed to prepare a meal. She was a good cook, and she loved it. I've watched her and my sister come together and have the best time doing so. They'd laugh, be silly, and have fun. The end product was a great meal. It was never a chore or work for her. She was always eager and sometimes sheepish or reserved to learn new things. She loved to help others. My mom, her grandmother, always needed help around the house. She would go help her often, several days a week. There was a 40 to 45 minute drive one way, but that didn't matter to her. Sometimes my mom gave her gas money, but not always. Leilani would go regardless. She loves her Mima. The grandsons, however, they're just too busy. They had their own lives. They rarely went over there, so this helped increase my mother's and Leilani's bond, as Leilani had the most time with my parents. Now we get to Leilani as a mom, and this is what I saw. I didn't see her every day. It was on occasion, but this is what I saw every time I saw her. Leilani loved and displayed love for all three of her children equally. I never saw her treat any of them differently. I never saw her discipline them by means other than verbal redirection. They, the children, were never hit, grabbed, shoved, hollered at, talked down to or about, called names. They were never disciplined by any derogatory means. The children were clean within reason. They're boys. Boys are dirty. They do it quickly. Boys climb. They fall down, and sometimes they fall up. They play hard and sometimes rough. All these things make for dirty boys who often have boo-boos, owies, and bruises. I've raised 3 of them, so I'm very well versed in that. They weren't filthy in a manner upon which they appeared uncared for or abused. The boys were healthy in appearance. I never saw them malnourished or starving. Quinton, though, with his beautiful soul, beautiful smile, and lovable legs, loved food. He always tried anything new without hesitation and liked most of it. He was a happy child, and he loved to eat, and it was never because he was unfed. That boy just loved to eat. I speak a lot of the boys because I had the most time with them. We only had 5 months with their sister due to this tragedy. The little I saw of her with her mom, she was completely in love with her. She was so proud to be her mom. She was proud of and loved all 3 of her children equally. She never treated any of them differently, even when they had extra challenges. The oldest definitely had extra challenges and could be a little difficult to take care of sometimes. Of course, she had experience with that too because so does Paul. He was diagnosed with autism when he was a young child. So we had lots lots of challenges there. There's a lot of conversation in and out of the courts displaying Leilani as a monster who mistreated and neglected her children, especially Quinton. I never saw neglect, but she would pass off some of their care on to others from time to time. The children never resisted going to or with their mom. They loved her and loved being with her. Regardless of what the media and testimony says, I have seen the children go into hysterics upon drop-off at the babysitter's house. This happened the day after Sky was born. We were instructed to take the kids over there. When we did, immediately I pulled up in the driveway and both children went to crying. No, 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 they said. No, and cried the entire time as I dropped them off. It broke my heart. Literally broke my heart that I had to leave them there knowing that this was not the place they wanted to be. And we don't have a long-term relationship with these children. They see them every day. We don't. We see them 3-4 times a year, and that's it. But they didn't want to stay there. They wanted to go back home with us. The last time I saw Quinton,
There's some tissues if you need them, Miss Madden.
the last time was as Miss Carter's daughter. I don't remember which one it was when I dropped them off. She was taking Quinton into the house. He was the last one to go in, and he was just looking at me crying with his hands out, wanting not to come back with us. That is the biggest heartbreak I will live with the rest of my life. This is important because it helps to show that all is not as has been depicted. All of this may seem that I'm biased or expressing or portraying Leilani as a completely different person than she is perceived to be. I'm not biased. I will tell you when you're doing wrong. Ask my sister. We have fought battle after battle after battle over the years over Leilani and Paul. You see, I did not get to see a Leilani who used drugs. I've heard she did, but I never saw any evidence of it. My experiences of time with Leilani only showed the Leilani I knew from the time she was a baby, as a toddler, as a child, as a preteen, as a teen, as my daughter, and as a mom. None of which was abnormal. It was all the normal things you would have growing up in life. I've already described these experiences, and they did not ever show a Leilani who was unworthy or a drug user. When Leilani moved in with her mom, my love for her never changed. I still saw her as my daughter. Sadly, for me, I chose to simply be an aunt. I chose to let my sister and her mom, chose to let my sister be her mom, not by blood, but by love, care, support, bond, and everything a mom is supposed to be. I knew I had to do this, otherwise Leilani would not get to truly form that bond that she and my sister needed, wanted, and were blessed to form. This was the kind of bond, a beautiful bond, that I saw with Leilani and her own children. I do wish, though, that I had maintained a better bond with her that showed her how much I loved her, because I do. Fast forward to October 5th, 2022. This date and the events and news to follow completely cripples my heart. I searched and searched for a way to describe my feelings about the loss of our precious, loving, beautiful Quinton. After a while, I finally figured it out. I was crippled, completely crippled. Crippled with fear of what was to come, anxiety, uncertainty, lack of understanding and comprehension of how such a thing could happen in our family. After all, as they say, this is what you see in the movies. Hurt, sorrow, dismay, anger. I was and am angry at the fact that drugs caused the tragedy to happen in our family. Drugs took Quinton and Leilani from us. Quinton will forever be in my heart, my thoughts, and loved by me, but his life, his body, his love will never be seen or fulfilled due to the influence of drugs. As for Leilani, her life will never be the same. Angry that even though Leilani and Danny were both present in the room with Quinton and the other two children, only Leilani was charged and convicted with the murder of our precious little Quinton. Angry that there's no evidence provided by the prosecution or otherwise presented during the trial that 100% proves that she was the one who murdered and disposed of Quinton's body. Angry that they both, Leilani and Danny, provided a setting that was dangerous for the children. They both used drugs. They both were under the influence on October 4th and 5th. Both parents, whom had altered abilities to provide proper care for these three children. Drugs led to two parents with altered abilities to function with clear and responsible behavior, rational decision-making, that caused the death and loss of our Quinton. Angry that drugs took away Quinton, his siblings, and Leilani from our lives, from our family. Therefore, the only way to simplify the way my head and heart could process this into a single definition was, it's crippled. This will never go away. Now, all of this said, do I think there should be consequences for Leilani? Absolutely yes. I do feel that she needs counseling. I do feel that she needs to complete a long-term multi-step drug rehab program. I do feel that she needs to complete multiple parenting classes. I've seen the difference that counseling and parenting classes have made for my sister. I know this isn't about my sister, but my sister affects Leilani. My sister, is definitely a better person, a better judge of character, and decision maker. I struggle to say jail time for Leilani because my heart struggles. My heart struggles to accept this as reality for my child, my daughter, my niece, my nephew. My love is never ending for her and her children, including Quinton. The loss of a child is the worst hurt anyone can ever feel. My own daughter, born August 2nd, 1989, at 3 months premature, weighing 1 pound 14 ounces. Died on December 25th, 1989. She was born with chronic lung disease, which gave us limited time with her. I've never in my life felt such a loss, such hurt. I bring that up because my heart hurts for Leilani as she will surpass the feelings I endured as a result in the manner which she lost her son. This will be a permanent imprisonment for her. It'll never go away. It'll eat at her the rest of her life. Whether she is responsible for this or Danny is responsible for this, it doesn't matter. She has lost her son. She has lost her 3 children. No matter if the other 2 are alive or not, she has lost them. And she will never be able to get over that ever. This will torture her for the rest of her life. As a Christian, I have to forgive her, and I wholeheartedly do. It is not because I'm a Christian, it's because I do. Does that mean I can forget? Absolutely not. Does it mean it won't hurt? No. Does that mean it changes the situation and the blame? Absolutely not. I do blame her and Danny. Only the two of them know what happened that night. The horror that resulted lies on both of them. One is just as guilty as the other, and both should suffer the consequences. The Leilani that I described in here, the Leilani that I know, is not the Leilani that would take the life of her son, that would do this horrible thing.
Miss Madden, just to perfect the record, you kept saying your sister. I want to be clear. You're talking about Miss Howell, correct?
I am, yes.
Right. And you understand the judge is bound by only 2 sentences, okay? It can only be life without parole or life with parole. And to be clear on that as well, you're asking the court to impose a life with parole sentence, correct?
Parole would be great, but it would also be good if these other things that I mentioned, the counseling, I know it's not required, I know, but I'm going to say it anyway. It would be great if these things could happen, because that will help her. It will help to make her a better person. It will help to take this out of her life. I know prison is coming. That doesn't mean that there's not access to these things. And without these things, the likelihood of it changing is limited.
That's all the questions I have. Miss Madden, Mr. Dean might have some questions for you, okay?
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may sit down, Miss Madden.
Next, we have Billy Joe Howell, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Howell.
The information you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
If you would, ma'am, state your name and spell it for the court reporter.
Billy Joe Howell. It's Billy, Billie, Joe, J-O, Howell, Howell.
And you are Miss Simon's mother, correct?
Yes.
And you understand what we're here for today, correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
And I've asked you to come forward and, if you wanted to make a statement on Leilani's behalf. Did I not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you understand the court is the only sentence in the state of Georgia on a murder conviction is either life with or life without parole. You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you still having a chance to address the court and say what's on your mind. Would you like to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you can either speak naturally, or I can ask you questions, or you can read from a prepared statement if you'd like to, Ms. Howell. Which do you prefer? Not trying to put you on the spot, but you were unsure before.
I am still unsure.
Okay.
I know drugs has taken and had a huge impact on our entire lives. Even as Leilani's childhood, I failed her as a mom. I allowed addiction to take over my life at a young age. And you and your brother were just babies. And you lived with my sister. And I made sure you were okay. And through those times, it was still really hard on you because you wanted your mom. Just like I know they're going to want their mom. When you come to live with me, I'd already changed my life. and I'd been working really hard. But I had changed my addiction from drugs to work. And I still neglected your needs, your emotional needs. I still wasn't there for you to be your mom. My decisions have played an impact on things that have happened in your life. And there's absolutely nothing I can do to take it away. But I'm working every day, Leilani, every day between counseling and parenting classes and taking other classes because I want to be better. Because I have to believe that it's still not too late and that we still have a chance, regardless of what it looks like. Quinton and the other children changed my life even more. And I was so afraid for you that I never let you fail. I always just scooped right in and fixed everything, which wasn't good for you. It didn't allow you to grow and to be able to make good decisions for yourself. I do take accountability today. Because I should have been a better mom and a better grandma. I should have seen something. You deserved better, and so do your children, all three of them. We might not be able to bring Quinton back, but he needs to come home, and we're all going to hold him one last time. I just want to make it better, Leilani, and I don't know how. All I can do is be here for you and answer every phone call. Talk to you and be there. Listen, really listen. I'm really listening. I love you and we're going to get through it because I raised you to know that I love you unconditionally. And today I do not put conditions on that because I love you. I love you. I love you, Leilani.
Let me ask some questions. Did you ever see, we heard a lot of this during the trial. Was there ever any of this favoritism towards Zane or Sky, or Quinton was the outcast?
No, sir. Never.
Okay. And did you ever see Leilani maltreat or withhold food from Quinton?
Never.
And you understand the sentence is what
Yes,
can be
sir.
life without or life with. And do you think that Leilani is so far gone she should get a life without parole sentence?
No, I don't. Because I wasn't so far gone. I'm not. And I refuse to let somebody make me believe that I am. I may be too late for a lot of things, but I'm here today. I'm here.
So you're asking the court to impose a life with parole sentence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to say before Mr. Dean asks you some questions?
No, sir.
That's all the questions I got, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard.
You're her mom.
Yes.
Since day one, you have, and I mean day one of the investigation, Quinton being reported missing,
Yes.
you have been there for her.
Yes.
You were out of town when it happened, but you came back quickly.
Yes.
You have talked to her a lot, right?
Yes.
But before she was ever arrested and since she's been jailed, right?
Yes.
Is she, you understand the jury has now convicted her of murdering Quinton with intent to kill him. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
12 neutral unbiased citizens taken a cold look at the evidence and said that is what happened here, beyond a reasonable doubt. You get that, right?
Yes, sir.
In all of the conversations you've had with her, has she ever taken responsibility for doing that?
No, she hasn't. But she has taken responsibility for her drug use.
I know that you've taught her to take responsibility for her actions, because when she says in the news interview, if it comes out that I'm responsible, I'll take responsibility. And she said that separately another time to the police. And I believe that that is coming from your upbringing of her. Do you think that's fair?
Yes, sir, I do.
Has she ever actually done it in this case, though?
No, she hasn't.
She hasn't admitted to you that she killed Quinton.
No, she hasn't.
She hasn't told you how.
No, sir.
She's said things to you about, well, I just don't remember, and I'm not sure, and I'm trying to piece it together, and things like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that the evidence has just not been consistent with that kind of claim? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
That, evidence shows that she made this very calculated drive to the dumpsters, scattered rice cereal in her car, drafted a text message to Danny about what she was supposedly doing on that trip, getting Oragel, told a bunch of lies about it to the police, right?
Yes, sir. I watched the trial.
And none of that is consistent with her just not knowing what happened. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. But even still, despite all the conversations you've had, and despite you being her mother, the person that she had to confide in, she hasn't even taken responsibility privately in confidence to you, has
No,
she?
she hasn't.
Is that frustrating to you?
Yes, it is.
Do you wish she would just come out and admit to you as her mother what
Yes. Yes, I do.
One moment, please. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Hilliard.
I'm a little confused, Ms. Howell, because being convicted of something doesn't necessarily mean you did it, does it?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't.
So if you're convicted of something you didn't do and you don't admit to it, it doesn't mean you did it. I mean, just because you're convicted of it.
That's correct.
Any questions?
So being convicted of something is not the same thing of admitting something you actually did, now is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay? So you can be convicted of something you didn't do, right?
Yes, sir.
You can be acquitted of something you did do, right?
Yes, sir.
And there's all manner of things in between, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay? That's all the questions I got.
Anything further, Mr. Dean?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Howell, you may step down. Any further witnesses, Mr. Hilliard?
I have to give my client an opportunity to allocute if she wants to, but I think that we've already discussed it. I don't think she wants to testify, Judge, but I think that you have to make that inquiry, not me. So.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon, we've come to the place where you have the opportunity to testify if you choose to do so. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you still have the right to testify, and you also have the right not to testify? Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
No one can make you testify.
Yes,
And whether or not you testify or make a statement is solely your choice, not your attorney's choice, but your choice.
right.
Do you also understand that if you choose to testify and you take the stand, then the state will have an opportunity to ask you questions as well?
Yes.
And you understand that we are at the point where there's evidence in aggravation and mitigation, and all of this I will consider in determining the sentence today. Do you understand that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Simon, do you wish to testify?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. You have a seat.
And just for the record, we've discussed it, Judge, and several times, and if she has any questions, she knows she can ask me again at this point. But other than that, we're ready to move into just argument phase.
Okay. Let's move into argument then. Mr. Dean?
Your Honor, I will reserve.
If I can approach, Judge.
You certainly may.
One ministerial thing. Early in this case, before I got it, the Public Defender's Office had filed a motion to preserve notes, evidence, and things as such. For the last 2 years, we've tried to figure out why they couldn't release Quinton's remains. It seems that motion is the holdup. I spoke with Mr. Dean last week. I spoke with Ms. Simon. At this point in time, we withdraw that motion from here on out to preserve. That way the remains can go ahead and be released back to the family for appropriate burial. And whatever orders need to be put on to do that, I will get with Mr. Dean and I will do that.
Before Mr. Hilliard gets into the substance of his argument, may I respond and we can kind of bring this issue to a conclusion?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just to clarify, this was during the period of time that the defendant was represented by previous counsel. It was Robert Attridge, Joseph Vinieri, and maybe Caitlin Walker. I believe it was Mr. Vinieri sending me an email asking me to ensure that Quinton's remains, which by that time had come down from the FBI lab in Quantico to the GBI lab in Pooler, I think. It sent me an email asking me to ensure that the remains not be released for interment, but instead retained by law enforcement in case they wanted to request any additional forensic testing. I got that email and communicated it to law enforcement and asked that they honor that, which they have. And that is, Mr. Hilliard is right. That email is why Quinton's remains have not been released to any family members for burial. In advance of today's hearing, after the most recent of a number of requests to the family from the family that we address this issue, I sent Mr. Hilliard and Mr. Pearson email asking whether Ms. Simon would lift what essentially functions as like a hold on Quinton's remains on the record, so that we can safely release Quinton's remains to the family for burial or cremation or whatever it is that they ultimately decide to do. Because I very much respect the request and agree that it's probably something that ought to happen. We could agree to that without being accused of spoliation or something like that later on down the line. So I'm happy to hear that they're willing to do that. If I would ask that the court inquire of Ms. Simon personally about that and confirm that she's okay with that, so that everybody can then move forward.
And I was going to get to that next, Judge. I've had the discussion with her about the spoliation and to preserve the record for appeal. We had that discussion, and I'll let her answer for herself in a second. But we understand it could affect the appeal going forward, but she felt that it was more important for the family to be able to bury Quinton than to preserve any possible testing for future references. And I told her both the positives and the negatives of it. Is that correct, Leilani?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'll let the court engage in a colloquy about that. But we did discuss it, though, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we did. And Ms. Simon, you've heard the discussion that's going on right now about Quinton's remains.
Yes, ma'am.
And there was a hold placed on the release of the remains in case there was any further testing that needed to be done. And that request was actually made by the attorneys who originally represented you. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The release will happen, but we want to make sure that's what you would like to do. Would you like for his remains to be released to the family?
Yes, most specifically my brother who's here today, Paul Simon.
Paul.
I would like him to be the one that they're released to.
Now, I don't know how logistically how that works.
I don't know. That has more to do with probate and administration, and I don't know anything about that.
So I think who they're ultimately released to is kind of not our lane. I think that's between like the GBI and the coroner and the police and all that. I think our only concern here is whether, as a result of the defense's requests to the state, they're going to continue to be prevented from being released to anybody at all, or not.
And I understand that, Mr. Dean. I understand that makes sense. So who the remains will be released to is a matter that's beyond this court. Okay. But you agree to have the remains released?
Yes, Mr. Hillary spoke to me about it on Sunday when he found out about it. I waited until yesterday so I could think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But my son's been through enough. Your Honor, he's been through enough.
And Ms. Simon, do you have any further questions about that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And I would like
Mr.
to,
Hilliard.
I discussed with you that there could be further testing and science could advance in the years to come.
I know why there would be a downfall. I understand that there's still matter with the and I want my baby home. I just want to home.
All right, thank you, Ms. Simon. You may have a
I wanted to clear that up. My argument's simple, Judge. We're asking for a life with parole sentence. It's only life with or life without. I understand Mr. Dean gave this long list here, but at the end of the day, she's a young lady, and life in Georgia, at least, is 35 to 40 years before your first eligibility for parole with parole. That puts her in her late 60s, early 70s. Mid-60s to late 60s to early 70s. We understand that we're talking about the death of a 20-month-old child. But Your Honor sat through the trial, and we don't know the manner or method in which it occurred. We still don't, and that's an issue for an appeal, which will go up. The question is whether or not she's someone who should be stuck away for the rest of her life without any possibility of seeing the light of day again. And I urge to you, there's nothing about her criminal history, which is pretty much non-existent until this. There's nothing about her life which shows that she is above any redemption or rehabilitation. The people who know her best have asked the court for a life with parole sentence. So we're asking the court for that. I understand why Mr. Dean wants to do all of these fines. I get it. I understand why he wants to ask for consecutive sentences. I get it. But to me, the ultimate question is whether it's life with or life without parole. And we think that she deserves life with parole. We think she deserves a shot at coming out again one day. Because it's not just about fashioning a sentence that punishes the crime. You have to realize that the offender is going to be serving the time as well. And while the offender is serving the time, there has to be something to maintain hope or institutional behavior. And in this particular case, I think a life with parole sentence would serve that purpose. So I understand the severity of the crime that she's been convicted of. I understand Mr. Dean's position. I don't agree with it. I don't think there's anything about this case necessarily that means that she's unredeemable or should never see the light of day again. So we're asking the court to give life with parole. We're asking the court to merge the false statements and the concealing of death. We're asking the court to not impose a fine as a life with parole sentence is what it means, life with parole. So there's no manner or method or ability to pay a fine. And I understand the reason why Mr. Dean wants to do that, but I just don't see that there's any ability to pay. So that's what we're asking, and we're leaving it with the court. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Mr. Dean.
Your Honor, will be relieved to hear that I do not have an hour and a half long PowerPoint to present to the court, but I do want to talk for a couple minutes. I'll start with the big picture of what the evidence shows, both through the trial and then the evidence that we've added today. Just, a few simple bullet points here. The defendant didn't like Quinton. There's credible evidence of that. Jury evidently found it credible. had some witnesses come in and dispute that today, but I would submit that they are not the most objective sources of information on that. Her dislike for Quinton was not a result of any drug problem. It's totally independent of that. If you combine the testimony of Melanie Bowling, Azalea McCarta, and Michelle McCarta, it spanned his entire life. Has nothing to do with drugs whatsoever. She murdered him, and the jury has found that she had the specific intent to kill when she did so. And this sets this case apart from cases in which the jury only makes a finding of guilt on felony murder, but acquits on malice murder. The jury did not do that. And there's a great deal of aggravation. Some of the aggravation is charged as independent offenses, concealing the death and false statements and false report of a crime and so forth. Some of it is not. The aggravation includes her covering it up in a deliberate, calculating, and very manipulative way. It involved totally shameless and reprehensible attempts to blame people without conscience, right? Just no compunction about blaming other people who were totally innocent of this and who, in fact, loved Quinton very much. She behaved in a way that shows a total lack of remorse, both during the investigation, when on day one she's asking Paul, hey, do you got some weed to smoke when we get home? On October 18th, when the police have announced that they're about to start searching for Quinton's little body in the landfill, she's out at Stingray's getting drunk and flirting with the waiter in a continuation of what we talked about at trial as to kind of what the theory was here, that a lot of this had to do with her need for male attention. This seems to have continued. She behaved in a way that shows absolutely no remorse and no compunction about what she did during her pretrial investigation and during the trial itself, as we've tried to show here today. Even to her mother, her closest confidant, who taught her to take responsibility for your actions, which is something that Billie Joe Howell, has done. I mean, she did it here today. She talked about all of her missteps and how she pulled herself out of them. She took no responsibility even to her mother, who taught her those things and was her close confidant. It's one thing to not admit to the police what you did and not take any responsibility to the police. It's kind of another thing to treat your mother, whom you claim to love so much, the same way. The upshot of all this is that she just doesn't seem sorry at all. She really doesn't seem sorry. She seems sorry that she got caught. She seems sorry that she's gonna she had to stand trial. She seems sorry that she's going to go to prison for a long time. The only question here is whether it's forever for her. But she doesn't really seem sorry about what she did. If she had been sorry about this at any point, there were a million off-ramps. After killing Quinton, she could have just not thrown his body in a dumpster. We get these abusive head trauma, child homicide cases. Typically, the fact pattern is the perpetrator does the thing, they do the act, and then they just say to the police, oh, I found him in the crib like this, and I don't know why he's not breathing, or there was some sort of accident or something like this. She could have played it that way after killing Quinton. She could have